Mm. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known. I am your host, Stacy Brown.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Neil Anderson, your co-host, and we have a lot of headlines to get through. We got the good, the bad, and the ugly that's happening in Black America, and we have it for you right here today.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Absolutely. I see ugly already, but nonetheless.
Uh-oh, uh-oh. Not yet. We just get started.
Let's see what our producer has for us this morning.
And you know what I didn't like at all? The fact that he called it black churches. Black churches? Like, what is that? Are we bringing segregation back?
Hey, Millie. My name is Charlie Dates, and I serve as a senior pastor of the Salem Baptist Church of Chicago and the Progressive Baptist Church in Chicago, and I come in peace. One of our staffers recently sent me a clip of a sermon you preached, posted on Instagram, in which you made reference, lamenting Pastor Jamal Bryant, referring to the black church. Truth compels me to admit, Millie, that we have but one holy universal church of the Lord Jesus Christ. Truth compels me also to admit that the birth of the black church happened the segregated worship of white Christians in America. You may or may not know that in the 1700s, at the St. George's Episcopal Church in Philadelphia, Richard Allen, an esteemed Episcopal churchman, along with hundreds of others of African American Christians, were not welcome to worship in the same way that whites were. And so they left and thereby gave birth to the African Methodist Episcopal Church. But I'm not here today to offer a history lesson. I'm actually here to propose something significant. We do ourselves no favors, nor the people we pastor, by not acknowledging the complicated and difficult history of race and Christianity in America. And so I'd like to meet. I've talked to Pastor Bryant, and he would as well. A kind of conversation off the record, away from cameras, with some leading influential white pastors like yourselves and some leading influential black pastors in our nation. We're willing to coordinate it, and we'll say that it's the church that's going to have to take the lead. Clearly, our politics will not save us. But if we both claim a high view of Jesus and a high view of the scriptures, surely this could be a defining, winning moment for the glory of God, for the advancement of his kingdom. Will you meet with us, Millie?
And you know,
Okay.
That's all yours, Neil.
Okay. Well, I love that he took us back to church and gave us the history of it, the AME Church breaking off, which stands for African Methodist Episcopal Church, which broke off from the CME Church because they felt they were a little blacker, you know. But I think that, it's a great conversation to have. It's a conversation that I love to have because I'm always trying to reconcile evangelicals, black church. We read the same Bible, but we coming out and walking out the doors with two different ideologies. That always baffles me. And so I would love to see that conversation. We know that, during slavery, there was a slave Bible and the same, but we also know that the same Bible that we read is the same Bible that they read. And how I would love to see that conversation. And I hope that they answer questions from the audience so that we can have some reconciliation and some healing when we talk about faith. And because when we look at the polls at the Pew Center, we also see that millennials and Gen Zers are not as active as in church as, Xers, boomers, and beyond. And there is a divide within the black church and black faith. And so I think that would be a really interesting conversation to see.
Well, Orange G says, what did Malcolm X say? The most segregated place in church on Sunday is church on Sunday at high noon. He says, I wouldn't meet with that Karen.
I think that, I definitely think though that it is important to meet, they say the church is the most segregated, but then football brings us all together after church. Because everybody's watching football. But I mean, it is. But I would love to have that conversation. I know, like even in the Methodist Church, which is AME and CME, when we say the Apostles' Creed, it believes I believe in the Holy Catholic Church, and that throws me off too, because I'm like, why are we saying we believe in the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, when we're not Catholic? But they say the Catholic Church in the Apostles' Creed means the universal church. So there's a lot of doctrine that I think that us black folks have adopted from Anglo-Saxon faith. And it's just certain things that we need to talk about because I think that it's starting to resonate, and it's just not adding up. So I would love to see that conversation. I would love to see it.
So there you have it. Uh, um, folks, a Republican attack on a core provision of the Voting Rights Act that is designed to protect racial minorities comes to the Supreme Court this week, more than a decade after the justices knocked out another pillar of the 60-year-old law. In arguments that are scheduled to take place tomorrow, lawyers for the Louisiana and the Trump administration are going to try to persuade the justices to wipe away the state's second majority black congressional district and make it much harder, if not impossible, to take account of race in redistricting. So they've already done most of the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, and now they're poised to just totally take it away.
Well, if this happens, this will really, possibly break up the Congressional Black Caucus and cut it by half. And so right now we're looking at the largest body of congressional Black members in history. So if this passes, we could lose half of that. So the Congressional Black Caucus annual legislative conference will be cut in half by representation. So this is very important. And we continually look at and talk about how this Trump Klan administration is chopping away at the very foundation of this nation, that for over the past, almost 50 years, we have tried to build equality and we were moving towards equity. And they have got rid, equity is gone. We fighting again for equality.
And just to think, you saying that about the Congressional Black Caucus, our House Negro friend Stephen A. Smith is trending again because of his attack on the one person, or at least one of the people who are really out there trying to make a difference, and that is Jasmine Crockett. His just disgusting attack on her is just really, it's backfiring. I'm glad to see, because he is really getting a lot of heat from it. And of course, it's only making him happy because he's doing, his master's bidding, his master being Donald Trump, of course. But the fact that he went after her and is going after Jasmine Crockett for being a, quote, loudmouth is really rich, coming from the loudest mouth and the emptiest of wagons, that is Stephen A. Smith.
For sure. I mean, I know that Serena Williams' husband checked them, as they say. But yeah, it doesn't stop what Jasmine Crockett is doing. And Jasmine Crockett is really building political power, boots on the ground. She was actually out here in LA yesterday, meeting with Black pastors, talking about how important Prop 50 is. So even still, as Congress is still shut down, she is still on the front line, traveling. She's in California, LA, talking about why Prop 50 is important. And I think it goes to your first story, because the not only are they doing it in the Supreme Court, but they're doing it in other states. And so as of now, California is the only state to stand up to this Trump Klan as to what they're doing. But in the meantime, other states are racking up to build seats. We know in North Carolina, Republicans have announced they will redraw their maps for Trump to gerrymander the state to pick up one seat. So California can't do it alone. And so speaking of Jasmine Crockett, while Stephen A. Smith is attacking her, she's boots on the ground talking about what's happening and even preparing us for the midterms a year in advance.
Yeah. And Stephen A. Smith is disgusting. It's just as disgusting as you can be. Again, I say that too because you look at I said this before, the platform that he has, the fact that black women in general, but certainly black women in power have gone through heck, as they say, or he double hockey sticks with this president, and others, not just this president, but in history. And this young lady, Jasmine Crockett, Representative Jasmine Crockett, has risen to the challenge time in and time again, time and time again, I should say. Um, and it's the only, not the only one, because you point out there's a couple of others, but certainly at the forefront of those who are showing backbone. And for a Stephen A. Smith and his platform, stay with sports. I mean, you are average at that at best. So stay there. And ESPN has overpaid you and overplayed you. So stay in your lane. He wants so badly to be in everybody's mix. He has no idea the flavor, but he wants to be in everybody's mix. And he needs to go away and go away quickly. And I'm glad that social media is taking him to task, because I don't watch the guy. I haven't watched him in forever, and I get the clips like everybody else when every time he says something that shows that he is that we sick boss type of black man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's
life.
working for him. I mean, it's sad that we live in a time to where clickbait works for some. And he has found a tool that allows him to have better ratings, and that is to, attack Black women as of today, and to be contrary to the narrative of what Black folks are looking for. It's working for him, and it's sad that to say that, he's decided to where this is my space to be provocative, to antagonize. It works. It brings me ratings. And so that's the path that he's chosen. I mean, it's sad, but it's making him a lot of money.
Yep, and as they say, all money ain't good money. And one day
It depends on who you ask.
Yeah, I believe that folks like that eventually get their comeuppance, and then he will be, so many we've seen this time and again, and he will be the one who will seek the support of the Black community eventually. Mark my words. And I hope that we're the most forgiving folks there have ever been, Black folks in general. And I just hope that folks will always take into account the damage that this idiot has done. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, has he really done any damage?
Well, I believe so. Because of his platform and because of people being so misinformed and ill-informed, they follow him. And so you get folks who jump on that bandwagon. And this is how you get, in part, I know there's other reasons, but this is how, in part, you get a Chicago flips red type people. This is how you get this people who say, Trump is good for Black people. This is how you get that, because you have so many who are misinformed and ill-informed. Then you got people with huge platforms like this idiot, and who spew it, and so they take it in. So that's how I see it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I agree, disagrees, but Dr. Joni agrees, and a couple of others say they agree too. And Quinn says we cannot forgive him. So and somebody else, who's that?
I just don't pay him any mind. I mean,
well, that's
caster, and I think like he's trying. I mean, but
yeah, and finally, RNG says being a sellout and a grifter is easy. It is all about the dollar. He has been a sellout for a decade now. He is just a rich sellout. So yeah. So anyway, folks, something else is going on. We've been talking about Chicago and what's been happening there, but I found this to be very interesting, Neil. A new line of protection has surrounded students in the Chicago public school system, armed with whistles and know your rights pamphlets. These community volunteers call themselves guardian angels. Together, they secure the perimeters of elementary, middle, and high schools across the city, and it has spread. Anytime ICE is in the vicinity, you hear a lot of whistles. If we could play that video again, I'm sorry, I spoke over it, and play the sound, you hear the whistles. Are we going to play it one more time and hear the sound, but maybe not? Okay, there you go.
Whoa!
So they've taken to blowing whistles, loud whistles, when ICE is doing their criminality.
Okay, giving us a little too short. Blow the whistle.
Blow the whistle.
Blow the whistle. Giving us some too short. No, I love it. I love how the protesters are taking this and making it their movement from blowing the whistles. I know in Portland on Sunday, you had white folks naked riding bikes, so they blowing the whistles. You got white folks in Portland getting butt naked in protest. I've even seen them wearing Barney outfits and Sesame Street outfits, saying, "Yeah, these are the most violent." You're taking away Barney, and so I love the creativity that we're getting out of the movement. So it's happening. Whistles, Barney outfits, and naked. I want to see what else they're gonna come up with. And don't forget, late at night, where some of the ICE agents are staying, people are going and blowing horns and playing loud music all night, not letting them sleep.
Wow. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, they honking horns, playing loud music, playing drums. Like, you won't sleep in our town. I love it. Keep it up. Creative protest.
With all of that, it just seems, that something is going to break out eventually. It's going to be just an all-out war between the people and this administration. It just seems that it's headed that way. Not that I'm rooting for stuff like that. I'm not. But it just seems like it's inevitable, because this is what happens.
Most importantly, and Orange says, only if they vote like they protest. I mean, I'm with you. Only if they vote instead of protest. Only if they vote instead of blowing the on the horn, talking. Only if they vote. I'm with you, Orange. And Dr. Sturdy says the damage is the programming and the seed it is planting. That's part of the problem too.
It's talking about Stephen A. Smith. That one is talking about.
I think it's across the board, though. The damage is the programming, even from we're talking about Trumpsters and all of it. It's the programming that these MAGA people have. That Trump is. It's the dog whistles. It's the Stephen A. Smith for sure, but it's the dog whistles too. That Trump is giving. That's programming as well.
Mm-hmm. And Nancy Wall says, whatever it takes, we have to do something against them now. I just think that it's a boiling pot that has to eventually, the lid is going to come off of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and it's not going to be pretty for anybody. That's what's going to happen.
It's not. And remember, in battles and war, there are always casualties on both sides. And so that is the disturbing, sad part about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's one, a really good story that we didn't talk about this yesterday, but the Arthur M. Blank Family Foundation announced a $50 million donation to Atlanta's HBCUs, aiming to close financial aid gaps that might otherwise prevent students from completing their degrees. The money will support nearly 10,000 students with gap scholarships if they are approaching graduation in good academic standing and have exhausted all other sources of financial support. This is going to go to Clark Atlanta, Morehouse, Morris Brown College, and Spelman College. The Arthur M. Blank Foundation. Arthur M. Blank is also the owner of the Atlanta Falcons football team.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. I mean, I love it. Invest in the community. That's what football teams and basketball and sports franchises are supposed to do. Invest in the community where you build your wealth. And I think there's no better place to invest in than HBCUs. So kudos to him. And especially as you look at how the Trump administration is trying to take funding away
Hmm.
from different institutions across the country, PWIs and HBCUs. Really appreciate him. And is it Melinda Gates that also just made a huge donation to
No, it
HBCUs?
was
Who
the
was
other
it?
philanthropist. What's her name?
Oh,
It's the guy
Bezos' wife. It wasn't it Bezos' ex-wife?
ex-wife, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it was his
Right.
ex-wife. Yeah, that did it.
Yes.
But Melinda Gates is a giver as well. But you
Hmm.
need those type of allies to invest in, HBCUs. So I mean, I think that's a beautiful thing. I love to see it. But I want to go back to Orange G. He says when your local and state elections and only 40% of registered voters vote, we have a problem. Yeah, we have a huge voting problem in this country, and we have to figure it out. Like, why are so many people deciding not to vote, especially African Americans, and how do we make them see that their vote truly matters? I think we do need to figure that out, Orangey.
Yeah, and my be always to the rescue. Mackenzie Scott donated
Yeah,
to
Mackenzie
the
Scott,
United Negro College
mhm,
Fund $70 million.
$1 million. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's awesome that it, we can still say that there are some allies out there
Hmm. Hmm. For
because
sure.
allies are definitely needed, and so very timely, very much needed, and I'm sure that those schools down in Atlanta, and not just the schools that are benefiting directly from this, but the other schools will benefit too, because just on the thought that they haven't been HBCUs haven't been forgotten about by these big time philanthropists. It really gives hope to the others. So it's a win-win for all HBCUs.
For sure, for sure. Most definitely. And so as we keep the conversation going, it looks like peace in the Middle East is more
Mhm.
like let's get the real estate party started. Okay. So I don't know if you guys paid attention to the news yesterday about the so-called peace in the Middle East that Trump and his son-in-law brokered. But according to the New York Times, Jared Kushner is one of the main architects behind the brokered peace between Hamas and Israel. Now, his plan envisions a massive reconstruction and real estate projects along the Gaza coast, describing the area as prime waterfront property. Now, critics say the so-called peace plan looks less humanitarian recovery and more like a profit-driven redevelopment scheme on land devastated by genocide. So this so-called peace plan is not being written by diplomats, but by real estate developers. And that is a huge problem. And
It
so
is
when
a
you
huge
look at
problem.
what happened, Stacy, when I looked at the whole thing from a perspective, I remember during Trump's administration, Jared Kushner was heavily over in Israel buying up all
Yep.
of those settlements. And so when you look at what's happening now, it makes you think, did they want to bomb Gaza and decimate that land? So now it's nothing left but to reconstruct the land? And who gets the
Mm.
deal? The
Yep.
Kushners and this man right here, Steve Witoff.
There you go. It's always you always have to look behind the curtain when it comes to this president and what he's doing. It's always about how much is in it for him. Dr. Nicole said they will build casinos on those people's graves.
Right.
Shaking my head. Yeah.
Yeah, it is horrible when you think about, when you take a step back and you look at, what's happening to the Palestinian people. It is like they decimated that land, blew it up. You look at that Gaza strip now, and all of the apartments and all of the housing is gone. And guess who's there to pick up the pieces? Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald Trump, the husband of Ivanka Trump, and this gentleman right here. So peace is being written by real estate developers, not diplomats. And you have people like Hillary Clinton applauding the work.
And Biden and Clinton sending Bill and Joe sending messages of congratulations on the so-called peace deal, as RNG says. Yeah, it's come on.
It is, and so I think this really takes us into our conversation about colonizers, right? Reparations. The Gaza people are going to need some reparations because their land is literally being stolen from them by Jared and Steve and Netanyahu and Donald Trump. And who knows what other deals that Donald Trump was over there making with those the Qatar. Qatar now
Yeah.
is building a military base over here. He's
Imagine
selling
that.
right. He's selling our federal buildings to China
Yep.
and who else? We don't know about that yet.
Yep.
Colonizers, So let's talk about reparations over here in the United States, Stacy. So as we talked about yesterday, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed Senate Bill 518 into law on Friday, launching the process for California to administer reparations for descendants of slaves. Now, the new state agency will be responsible for verifying eligibility, processing claims, and recommending forms of reparations for descendants of slaves. So, here to break down what this all means is Chris Lodgenson from the Sacramento Reparations Collective and CJEC. Welcome, Chris.
Good morning. Good morning.
Are
Happy
you feeling
morning.
good?
Happy
Reparations
morning.
now.
That's right. Happy morning. It's 5:30 here in California, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, we are so happy that you're here. So we've saw over the past 24 hours there are more bills being signed. But let's start with SB 518. Talk to us about this bill and what it means for Black Californians.
Sure. So this is a bill that, is a very interesting bill. The bill really builds on or is based on a proposal that came from California's Reparations Task Force, which worked for, 2 years from 2021 to 2023 to study the harms of slavery and the things that came after slavery here in California and to educate the public and then to make recommendations. And one of the key recommendations, top recommendations, was for the state to create a system, a way for people to confirm and verify that they are descendants of the people whose ancestors built this country, the American freedmen, the descendants of people who were enslaved and emancipated from chattel slavery, and those who are also California residents. And so the state task force said we need a system for people to be able to show that they are of this amazing group of people. And one of the things that we need to do is create a state body. The task force recommended something called the California American Freedmen Affairs Agency, right? So it would be a state agency that would do, genealogy work and a whole bunch of other things too. Last year, there was a bill to do something like that. And that bill was the subject of all the, fighting at the end of the year. That bill was blocked by the, Legislative Black Caucus and then caused all kinds of, trouble after that. So this year, there was a new version or a version of that introduced called Senate Bill 518. Now, let's get into this because we opposed this bill from the start of it. And we were calling on the governor to veto the bill, actually, for some very important reasons. And we'd love to talk about why.
Okay,
Yeah, well,
yeah,
go
you
ahead.
can, but I want to know, do you like the bill or no? You're not for this bill?
No, we opposed this bill from the start, and there were some important reasons why. We think there's a better way to do this, having the benefit of experience from last year and from this year. But no, we were opposed to the bill. We're calling on the government to veto the bill, even up until Friday.
Wow.
Wow, that's interesting. Two of California's leading Black-owned newspapers, the Los Angeles Sentinel and the Sacramento Observer, both put out different statements on this, or different editorials, I should say. One says, "Stop the study, stop the
Yep.
stall," while the other calls it a promise kept. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, I'm hearing it's. I'm not. I won't say obviously, but it sounds like I'm hearing that the one that says "stop the study," which is
That's
the
coming from us.
yes, okay, and I thought
That's us,
that I saw your picture next to that article.
maybe.
so
Probably.
so tell us about that. Why is there two different views on this? And
Yeah.
go ahead. I'll
Yeah.
let you.
This is interesting, and this is necessary. Yeah, this is necessary. All right. So, Black folks, we are having an internal battle about
Mhm.
what we want reparations to be and what we want reparations to mean. That has to happen before it can happen. Right. Like that's necessary. We're just having it here in California because we've gotten closer to the goal. But anybody and everywhere who moves this forward in your state or your county or your city or even at the federal level, you will come to something like this. And we will come to something like this. And every community who's had reparations has gone through this, where you go through a process internally in your own community to decide who is this for and what does it actually mean and what do we want it to do. So why we say stop the stall, and I want to stay on 518 because this will make me talk about another bill, but I want to stay on 518 for right now. So one of the reasons why we opposed the bill was that it is dependent on a study. So the Bureau cannot happen until after a 3 to 5 year study, another 3 to 5 year study.
Mhm.
We just did a 3 to 5 year study, or we
Right,
did a 2 year
right.
study. I just kind of talked about it. It's called the California Reparations Task Force. So one of our biggest complaints was that the state is delaying by design. The state can start right now. The verification of genealogy can start right now or soon. We don't have to wait till the 2030s. And that's what the Bureau will do. It will start, in theory, in the 2030s. And we had big battles with, staffers and, legislators throughout the whole year working to get them to move this thing faster. So we're saying stop the stall because this is a way to slow down and stall what can actually happen now. And we say stop the study because this Bureau depends on a study and the study is unnecessary. And we just did study. So that's why we say stop the stall, stop the study, start the repair now.
I remember when everything happened last year, this was one of Steve Bradford's former state senator. He was
Absolutely.
against this because he was like, we've already did a study. I don't need you to put money back into the institution I went to. We're not going to even get that. Okay. But this was why he did not want this bill to go through, because he was like, we did a study already. And so it's interesting to see that Gavin Newsom still played it safe. It gave the appearance as of Friday that we were moving forward, but now you're saying that he decided to be able to just do the study.
Yeah.
And the black legislators were standing there smiling, knowing that this is exactly what you guys didn't want.
It's so interesting. And I am so grateful that we're having this, this battle happen, because I said it was necessary. But it's so interesting. We had been working all year to, and by the way, the study is a separate bill. It's called Senate Bill 437. So that bill is a bill. By the way, this Bureau bill is also the Bureau bill and the study bill are by the same author. It's Senator Akilah Weber Pearson, who is the chair of the California Legislative Black Caucus, who is the daughter of
Shirley Weber.
Shirley Weber, California Secretary of State Shirley Weber, first Black Secretary of State in California's history, if I'm not mistaken, and the author of the bill that created the California Reparations Task Force. I'm actually wearing the hat with the bill number right now. We worked with Secretary Weber when she was in the state assembly to write the final version of that bill. It was AB 3121. That bill created California's Reparations Task Force. So all that is to say, these two bills to us are delayed by design. They actually slow us down when we could be going faster. And now we have a better way. We think we have a better plan. We have a better alternative. and we're happy to to share more about that, and looking forward to doing that. And I think we also have to talk about some of the other reasons why we oppose this bill 518, but also the fact that the governor vetoed five, I believe, all the other so-called reparations and reparation related bills were vetoed by the governor yesterday. And I hope I know we'll talk about that soon.
Right. No. I wanted you to get into that because that was our next question.
Yeah.
What about the other bills? Because we know that it was a reparations package. And so you're saying that what work can you, we don't have a lot of time, but can you break down what were those other bills that he vetoed?
Sure, I can do that pretty fast. Let me just add one more thing for your audience, so your audience knows also why we oppose the bureau bill. It's not just that it depends on a study that's that is 5 years away at the earliest. It's also the case that the bureau is not just for people who are descendants of American slavery. Okay? So if you read the text of the bill, and it's something that we as the people are learning to do, we're getting more politically mature. If you read the actual language of the bill, it says it is the intent of this bureau to expand, to serve both descendants and communities identified in chapters 1 through 13 of the final report of the California Reparations Task Force. So if you just look at that and ask, who are those other communities? There's at least five. Some of our Latino brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters, some of our AAPI brothers. So other types of people who are not descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. So for us, that's a non-starter, right? We want a specific place for us. It's for us. It needs to be for us. But to the bill. So the governor yesterday vetoed all the other bills that the legislative Black Caucus put forward that were based on the Reparations Task Force report. I wouldn't call them reparations bills, but they were based on the final report of the California Reparations Task Force. And there's a distinction there that I think is important, and I'll come back to it. But first bill, AB 57, that bill would have reserved 10% of one of our state's housing loan program for descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. So if you were a descendant, you would have, there would be 10% of this program, this housing loan program, reserved for you. That bill was vetoed. The governor also vetoed AB 62. That bill would have created a legal claims process for you if you believe you were the victim of a racially motivated taking of your property by the state of California. That bill, AB 62, was vetoed. The governor vetoed AB 7. That bill would have provided admission preferences to students who were descendants of those who were enslaved in this country. So if you were a student and you were a descendant and you want to go to college, you would get a preference in admissions to go to state schools in California. Vetoed. The governor also vetoed AB 742. That bill would have said to our licensing departments in California that they need to speed up the licensing, the professional licensing for people who are descendants of those who were enslaved in this country. Vetoed. The only thing that the governor signed a part of that package was the 3 to 5 year study, and the bureau 5 years away.
That the study that already happened.
Happened.
It took 2 years, hearings, heard from the community, 1,100 page study, and he wants to do another one. But also the legacy one is so interesting to me because we see at USC, they're debating on if legacy should be can be a requirement in getting accepted in the school, and they're debating that. They want to bring the legacy clause back in. But I want to talk to you about the $12 million. Now, you talked about what was vetoed. There was $12 million allocated to reparations. Talk to us about how that money, where that money is, and has it been dispersed, and who it's going to.
Don't this get more interesting? This is like a movie. Okay? This is a movie. If any producers out there, the documentarians, I don't know the word exactly, but I think this is a story here. So last year, the state, for the first time ever, to the state's credit, to the governor's credit, to the legislature's credit, to the community's credit, last year, for the first time in California history, there was money in our state budget line item for reparations. Okay? Specifically, it was line item or in the budget for, quote, reparations implementation. That's what it said in the budget bill. And it said, hey, when y'all, basically, when y'all pass your reparations bills, use this money to do them. Because you can't do none of this without money. Right? And this is something that we have to. I'm going to say this very loudly. There's no way to do reparations without money. Okay.
Right.
Right.
Black people, you should not be saying out loud, do reparations without money. Okay, we should not be saying that or even getting close to that, because there are people who are listening in the legislative halls and decision makers who do not want to do money. And so when you say that, you're helping them. Okay, even if you believe that personally, I'm just giving you you're making my job way harder. Okay, when I go into those buildings, they say, "But your people, Chris, they don't want the money. They want programs and other stuff and stuff. They don't want cash."
Well, that's a lie, right?
That's
a
complete
lie.
BS. Complete BS. But back to the money. So, that $12 million did not get spent last year, though. Okay, because all the bills that needed money to do anything got blocked. Okay, so the money sat there for a year. This year, the governor and the Black Caucus changed what happens with that money. Instead of going to reparations implementation, that $12 million, they split it up. They're giving $6 million to this study. So give half to a study, and then give the rest, or almost all of the rest, or another $5.5 million to a nonprofit called the Tides Foundation, for them to give out to other nonprofit organizations to do reparations education activities. Okay, so nonprofit organization funding is going on. There's about $500,000 that was
foundation.
Come on. There's $500,000, about $500,000 of that 12 million that's going to, or that was supposed to go to create a plaque and a statue on the Capitol grounds with an apology somewhere. We have not seen it. It was supposed to happen last year. I'd be at the Capitol building once every 2 weeks or so, once a week.
Wait,
not seeing
Chris, who agreed to a $500,000?
This had to be done. It's had to be done with the agreement of the California Legislative Black Caucus and folks in the governor's office. So it just had to happen. Then, so that's the $12 million that was reparations funding. Wow. That is now, so it's now plaques. There's a plaque, a study, and like a nonprofit grant. It's sad if it wasn't even. It'd be sad if it wasn't so infuriating. And that also, though, in this year's budget bill, they added some new money, another $6 million, and that money is supposed to go to the bureau. So it's a bureau, $6 million, study, $6 million, tides, or 5.5 or ish, and then $500,000 for a plaque. That's the money.
As Patricia Jackson says, she says, seems other groups were compensated. They require all this study. And I think that has to be part of your frustration, right? Anybody who's been seeking reparations, for Black folks, part of that frustration is that reparations were easily handed out to others.
Right.
It's such a great point. That's a great point. Now, there are cases where we want to do some civics, like knowledge too. Like there were cases where there were studies in the past for other groups too. I want to give one example. Like in the case of the Japanese folks, right? The bad things to their community happened in the 1940s. They didn't start their reparations process to the 1980s. The study they had, I think, a 2-year study. And they did hearings around the country, etc. And then their study produced a report. That report went to Congress. Congress passed the stuff, did the stuff in that report. And then former California Governor Ronald Reagan, then Republican President Ronald Reagan, signed the bill and did a public signing ceremony surrounded by Japanese Americans, saying we're doing some reparations here. So there is that example, but the viewer and the audience is absolutely right. Nobody is studied as much of, like, we don't know. When it comes to us, is let's study. What we're hearing is let's study. We don't have enough money, and let's redefine what we mean by reparations, so we don't have to actually do anything that's going to change your material economic condition and really upset the power structure.
Right, and we've already done that because we've evolved from 40 acres and a mule. And we know in that study that they were defining reparations is not just monetary. It could look like what reimagining policing is. It could reimagine what healthcare. There's a lot of things to talk about with reparations. But I want to know, Chris, do you have any allies within the Black legislators in California? I know Steve Bradford, who is no longer a senator, was an ally. Well, who are your allies within this Black California Legislative Caucus?
Yeah, so I want to give definitely want to give a shout out to former state senator Stephen Bradford, who I think is now running for California State Insurance Commissioner. So he's running for another statewide office. I thought he was running for lieutenant governor at one point, but now he's running for.
But he switched it. Yeah.
Shoot right on. So, so definitely shout out to Senator Bradford. Also, Secretary Weber. I want to give a shout out to Secretary Weber. She's been really really good. As it concerns supporting the work that we're doing. Inside the legislature right now. So I want to give a shout out to Senator Laura Richardson, the California Legislative Black Caucus. We actually just got a bill.
She's fresh back in. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And she has Steve's old seat.
Right.
Yeah. So she did. So we just got a bill signed with her by the governor yesterday. We did a bill with her this year that now requires every city and every county across the state of California to start to collect data specifically for descendants of people who were enslaved in this country, to create a category of data collection for the first time in California's history for a people who've been here for hundreds of years. Just think about that. I mean, we were not even being counted as people.
Right.
Okay? And how are you going to do reparations, or how are you going to do anything else for this group if you don't know who and where they are? So Senator Laura Richardson of the CLBC is definitely one. There are a bunch of folks in the Capitol, both inside the Black Caucus and outside the Black Caucus. But we make the point that the Black Caucus cannot and does not own this work. People who are not Black Caucus people should be doing bills too. If we really believe that this is a thing that we want people to support from outside our community, then we expect non-Black legislators with large Black populations in their districts, or who just care enough about the Black Americans in their district to do something and not depend on or say, which is what we hear, Chris, I don't know if I want to do this bill or this thing because what if the Black Caucus doesn't like it? Okay? Well, it's different. We elected you, non-Black senator, to represent the Black people in your district, not to give your decisions about all things Black to Black legislators from another part of the state. Okay.
But you've only named one legislator. You only named one Black one. Are you telling me there's only one Black legislator that you can identify?
No, there are definitely some. I mean, I would say for the most part, most of the newer Black Caucus folks, I think are open to, and I think we have some good relationships with. So like Sade El Hawari, Senator Laura Richardson, Aisha Ransom,
Isaac Bryan.
So brother Isaac Bryan has been very, very interesting in this work. Very interesting. Very interesting. I want to keep it there.
Chris, let me interject though, because Evanston, Illinois is always sort of a benchmark. Small town outside of Chicago. They did the reparations back in 2021. Eligible residents received $25,000 for housing related expenses such as home repairs and mortgage payments. Now, I know Boston is doing the same thing, or at least trying to do the same thing there in Massachusetts. But Evanston has always been the benchmark, or not always, but it became the benchmark. Now, of course, just like everything else under Trump's DE&I, the Judicial Watch is suing Evanston to try and stop that program. That's another. I mean, that's further down the road than we're way further down the road to where California is, because you're still trying to get reparations or an agreement for reparations. But those are some of the obstacles that these lawmakers must see. You see, how do you get around this when you have well-oiled machines that even if the state passes and starts to implement reparations, you're going to have these challenges by conservatives, by Trump supporters?
Yeah, we expect, and we've been expecting for years and anticipating for years that there'll be legal challenges to what we do. We're doing something kind of new here. We're not saying that this effort for reparations should be because of your race. We're saying that it should be because of your lineage, your descendancy from chattel slavery in this country.
Right.
And that's a new approach. At least it's new to our era. It's old in the sense that that was what was happening in the late 1800s after the end of the Civil War, right? We had Freedmen's Bureau Acts and Freedmen's Acts of Congress, right? When we say freedmen or American freedmen, that's just another way to talk about the people whose ancestors were enslaved and freed from chattel slavery in this country. So yeah, it's newer to us. I mean, it's newer to us, but it's not new. This approach that we're taking, and it's important that we're taking this approach because it has legal and constitutional implications. It's part of the reason why we have been working to lift back up this concept of American freedmen as a political status and a way to talk about our people, is because of the legal and constitutional grounding that it has. We think it protects us and helps us, avoid any challenges against what we're doing that are successful. Let me give you an example. So we're saying that you can do policies, bills, etc., for descendants of people who were enslaved in this country. That is something that we expect people to challenge, but we think that it's going to be legally okay. One, because the State Reparations Task Force here in California got some legal, I would call them legal opinions about it, or some legal testimony. There was testimony by some really important constitutional scholars to the State Reparations Task Force, and I want to say like February or March of 2022, specifically Professor Dean Erwin Chemerinsky of UC Berkeley, and he recommended, and we agreed that you can do things specifically for descendants, and even though we'll be challenged by people, that is legally okay because there's a long history of doing that going back to the Freedmen's Bureau. So that's that's the argument that we put forward, and we expect that will be successful.
It's good to hear, Neil, that they are prepared for that side too.
Right. I know. So there's like a celebration. It's like a catch-22. You want to celebrate because you see motion. It might be going backwards or forward, but you have some motion. So where does the fight for reparations stand now in California? You have Newsom signing this bill, which means another study needs to happen. Where does the fight for reparations in California stand now from your perspective?
Yeah, so I was told by a mentor of mine not too long ago. He said something like, he said, "Real ships rock." Okay? Real ships rock. So what he meant by that was, when you're doing something in the real world, it don't always go forward. Like it's like a ship. Like a ship on the water is moving toward its destination, but while it's moving, it's rocking. Right? It's going back, right? It's going back. Right? It's not smooth. And so that's what we're experiencing now, I think, here in California. And like I said, this internal dialogue and debate is necessary among our people. Where do we stand now? I think we stand at inflection point. Mm-hmm. I think we have a choice ahead of us as a state to go in a direction that is slower and not the best direction, and a choice to go in a better direction. And we have time. Mm. We have time. I mean, one of the benefits of these other things that we don't like being 5 years away is that that's much time for us to get, on the right path. And so I think we're in an inflection point. I think we're in a place where we have a big opportunity to make some really, really big things happen. And I'm excited about it, to be honest.
Before, last question. I know that Ayanna Pressley reintroduced Sheila Jackson Lee's bill, HR 40, that had to do with reparations. Have you heard from Ayanna Pressley or any of the federal congressional members about what's happening in California?
No, I have not. You know, and I no, I have not. I have heard about this this reintroduction. You know, we do state work here, so we don't do any take any federal positions, at least right now, at least up until this point. So, but I did hear about it. We believe that the federal government owes reparations. We believe that the federal government ultimately must be responsible. We believe that the federal government could support states and helping states, do their reparations funds and initiatives. And we believe that the federal government could skip the study, skip the HR 40 study now, take California's study, just incorporate it by reference, and get to the actual actions. Okay, our California study was comprehensive enough to
really was.
to be useful to the federal government. So it's like okay, like skip the study. We have it, use ours, and then get to the actual bills that do remedies and get stuff in people's hands. So that's the position that we've taken for for the HR 45.
Yeah, well, it looks like you're going to have another study. Well, we're going to have another study, and so they'll have plenty of information at the federal level. HR 40. But we definitely want to have you back as California leads the way to the journey for reparations. Thank you for joining us this morning, Chris.
My pleasure. I'm gonna go back to you. Thank you.
All right. So, you know what I love about this conversation, Stacey, is that Black Americans still have other issues besides what the crackers are doing at the White House.
What the who?
The crackers are doing at the White House. Okay.
What kind of crackers are they?
And speaking of the saltines, they continue to play games with American lives. Around 1,300 CDC workers were fired on Friday. And according to the American Federation of Government Employees, 700 of the 1,300 were rehired by Saturday. Fired on Friday, rehired by Saturday, after officials claim the dismissals were the result of a coding error.
Yeah, okay.
You
They off code.
Our lives. Imagine getting a letter saying, your career is over, and then by Saturday saying, oops, that was a mistake. How long does that mistake last? Damn.
And yet you still got folks. Oh, I support this. Yeah, you go right ahead and support it.
All right. Another important story that is happening right now that media has just totally ignored, and it's happening in Alaska, where many have been rescued and many remain unaccounted for in Western Alaska after the remnants of Typhoon Halong brought hurricane force winds and flooding strong enough to sweep away entire homes and coastal communities, authorities have said. Now, according to the nonprofit Coastal Villages Region Fund, the indigenous communities are among one of the most isolated in the U.S., where some residents use boardwalks, boats, and snowmobiles to get around. And so when we look at this story, we know FEMA has been defunded and the National Guards are invading U.S. cities. And so where are these Alaskan people who are American, indigenous people, going to get the resources from? Because they're definitely not getting the headline.
No, not at all. You do not see this anywhere else. You don't see it. And it's not, it's so weird because someone asked me, and I'm trying to remember who, just a day or so ago, isn't Alaska a part of America? And I was like, why would you ask me that? And the question was about this. It's like, no one's talking about that.
No. A typhoon hit Alaska, and it impacted mostly the indigenous communities, and we talk about, yesterday was Indigenous People Day. And the indigenous people need us, and there are no resources reported headed to Alaska. You have people on TikTok, you have the indigenous community crying out for help, for resources. They're missing people. And it's kind of reminiscent of what just happened a few months ago in Texas.
Yeah.
Remember when
Yeah.
when the floods came out of
Yep.
nowhere, and they weren't prepared? Same situation, just no attention or headlines from mainstream media.
None. Wow.
And then let's head over to the East Coast where nor'easter is also causing havoc down the East Coast, leaving travelers stranded from New York all the way down to Washington, D.C. Now, the government shutdown has heightened this dilemma by creating staffing shortages at critical points like air traffic controllers and TSA. And so we have another issue within the federal government, and Trump is over shaking hands with the Middle East, getting land, building hotels. Meanwhile, America is crumbling.
Do you just, don't you see every single day the problems that this country, this world would not have if homeboy would have just went to prison like he was supposed to? I mean, give me a break.
But we wondering
Woo.
how much time Diddy gonna get for prostitution. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Make it
Yeah.
make sense, y'all. Make it make sense, But we definitely we definitely have to pay attention to how we travel now. There's a lot of other things that are going on within the travel industry worldwide, which we'll get into tomorrow. But definitely let's keep the Alaskan and indigenous people in our prayers, because they are having lack of resources, lack of attention. People are missing, loved ones are crying. And America at this point, from a federal government standpoint, just doesn't give a damn.
Not at all. That's where we
And,
at.
there you have it for today's headlines.
Oh gosh, folks, here's some Black history facts for you. On this date in 1964, how about this resonating so loudly today? Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. received a Nobel Peace Prize for his work in the civil rights movement at age 35, which made him the youngest person to ever receive that honor.
It's a lot
Some
of
people
talk
really
about
want that.
Right. It's a lot of talk about Nobel Peace Prizes.
Some people actually earned it.
Right. And deserve it. Okay. They deserve it. Let's, be clear. But today is another day and reminder of just how divided this country is. Yesterday we had people celebrating Indigenous People Day, and then you had some people celebrating Columbus Day. And today is another one of those days, because today we remember the life and the impact of George Floyd, who would have been 52 today. Now, of course, his death became a catalyst for discussions and movements seeking police reform, increased accountability, and a deeper understanding of the impacts of systemic racism in the United States. And I don't think the perfect example is today is George Floyd's birthday. Today is Charlie Kirk's birthday. And America is divided, like we started with the church, division, Black church, evangelicals, George Floyd, Charlie Kirk. This is America.
That was and I hate to beat the dead horse, but I'm going to continue to beat it. When that happened, and all of these corporations, Target and others, oh, Black Lives Matter, and you had this global Black Lives Matter, everybody, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, or whatever. And I kept saying, I said to Dr. Chavis, I said to so many others, I said, this is a moment, not a movie. We got to make it. We got to make it more than a moment. These people are pledging this, they're pledging that. They only, for the next couple of months, I'm going to do this. For the next 6 months, I'm going to make them pledge and sign guarantees for next 10 years. Oh, no, it's, things have changed. Yeah, okay. This is America. Don't forget that. And here we are, just 5 years later? And now we have corporate retreat from diversity. So here we are.
Divided America. The Indigenous People Day, Columbus Day. George Floyd celebration, Charlie Kirk celebration. This is America. But on a brighter note, we can end the show talking about reparations. And to your point, you can see that Chris and what the reparations task force and organizations like his are doing is they're not giving up. And it'll be interesting to see how they respond to Governor Newsom. Although the headlines look pretty, we see that the devil is definitely in the details and they're on top of it.
Boy, the devil's all over. The details are everywhere. So our black-owned newspaper of the day is the Inner City News. The Inner City News is the largest black-owned print publication in New England, a weekly publication that is based out of New Haven, Connecticut. The Inner City News says it's dedicated to sharing and showcasing news and information important to all of the region's Black communities. So check out the Inner City News online if you're in New Haven, Connecticut. Hey, pick it up.
I love that. And I saw on the cover of their paper that voting by absentee ballot, there's a lot of early voting happening right now, especially in the state of California when we talk about Proposition 50. And to your point, Stacey, you were talking about Jasmine Crockett. I don't know if I mentioned, but she was here yesterday. Did I mention that?
No, you didn't mention that.
Yeah,
you did. You did. You did.
Yeah, she was here yesterday. So, to get us to early vote. So early voting is happening across the country. Know your status. Check your Secretary of State. Check ballotpedia.org. Vote, vote, vote. And for the latest in Black news and election news, you can head over to blackpressusa.com.
Right. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.